everyone. Welcome to the Honorees, a brand new MDC-TV show dedicated to follow up with the recipients of the MDC's Endowed Teaching Chairs program that selects distinguished professors every year who continue to demonstrate excellence in teaching, effective communications with students, and professional growth. I'm your host, Jez Katambe. Today our guest is Professor Billy Oliver, Squire, Sanders, and Dempsey Endowed Teaching Chair. Professor Oliver, welcome to the Honorees.
Thank you for having me.
Before I ask you our first question, I want to take our viewers to your classroom to get an idea of your teaching style. Let's watch.
With 10 years in the field experience and 20 years teaching, Professor Oliver has educated thousands of aspiring television professionals and has taken an active role in developing curriculum and advancing service learning.
As a faculty member, that makes all the difference is you have to get to know your students as individuals. 85% of the students that I have, you can show one of them to me and I can tell you something about them personally, not just, you know, that they're my student in such and such class, but I know a little bit about their family background because that's has such an effect on them as students, what's going on in their life.
I would describe Professor Oliver's teaching style as, creative. All the projects that we've done in our classes have kept it interesting, engaging, because he loves what he does, and he passes that along to the students, and you can really feel that in his lessons.
One of the things that really makes me feel good as a teacher is that student that doesn't quite have the confidence and doesn't quite think they can do it, that succeeds, and then they're so delighted with themselves.
Professor Oliver has influenced me academically and professionally because I wanted to get into the TV industry, and I feel he's prepared me very well for that. And also, having the opportunity to work in the television industry, a lot of the things he has taught me has helped me succeed.
In television, I do a lot of live TV production, and that's always about group work. You have to do group work, and it enhances the group when they teach each other.
Always remember that if I can be here today, it's because of you. Because when I left Haiti and coming here, I didn't have a family. But he embraced me as a father and tell me that you can make it.
Unfortunately, my parents passed on a few years ago, but they're very humble people, and if I were the best ditch digger in Florida, they would be extraordinarily proud of me because that's the kind of people they were. And I'm certain they would be beside themselves if they knew that I had gone to college, finished college, was teaching other people, and had received this wonderful Endowed Chair Award.
So, how does it feel to be the recipient of the 2013 Endowed Teaching Chair Award?
It is a wonderful thing. A lot of very good, very deserving professors applied for the endowed chair, and I'm humbled and honored to be selected as one of the recipients from all those wonderful professors that certainly deserved it also.
That's wonderful. Now tell me, you teach TV and production here at the North Campus. Can you tell me a little bit about the background of your students?
I have students from all over North America and South America. I have a lot of Haitian students. I have a lot of Colombian students, a lot of Cuban students. They sometimes are coming to us they're the first generation of college students in their family. So that means they don't have someone in their family that they can go to and say, hey, this happened to me at school. Can you tell me what I should do, or what did you do, because they didn't go to college. We have a lot of students that are coming to us speaking English as a second language, and that sometimes presents challenges. And we have a lot of students that are at or below the poverty level, so that also adds to it.
Now, with such diverse backgrounds, what kind of techniques do you take to approach and teach these students?
Well, I grew up in rural Alabama, and I grew up at the poverty line myself, and no one in my family had gone to college before me, so I can kind of relate to them on all those issues. I know what it's like to be first generation college, and I know what it's like not to have all the financial resources. So I think that helps me understand them in the classroom, but also hold them to the same high standard. Just because they have all those issues doesn't mean they should have a lower standard as far as academics than anybody else. And I hold them to that standard.
And now, how do they respond to that, knowing that you have the same background and very similar experiences?
I hope they feel like they're coming home when they come to my classroom, that they're going home. They're not going to a really uptight formal class somewhere, and it's not that they're not going to get the education that they need and deserve, but I use humor a lot in my presentation. I make jokes. I'll sing in class sometimes, and the students sometimes will sing along with me for a few minutes. And I do everything I can to try to relax them in the classroom and make them feel at home while still giving them all the information that they need to be successful in their career.
Well, that actually leads me to my next question. With the teaching techniques that you employ, how do you give your students real-world experience that they can use in their careers?
Well, it's difficult to do that in the classroom, but we have everything here in the TV studio that you would have in any studio, in any news station or any production house. And I do my shows, our programs, we do them like they're live. So I pretend that there's an audience out there watching us, and I hold my students to that standard. And if we mess up, we have to fix it in the moment and continue, because if it's a live show, you can't stop tape and edit and fix it and so forth and so on. So I try to do that. And I also on occasion will have speakers from the outside come in that have real world, quote unquote, I hate that word really, real world, because my world is real too, but people that are working in the business currently, and I'll have them come in. Just a few months ago, we had a cameraman from Saturday Night Live who had won 8 Emmy Awards, 6 for Saturday Night Live and 2 for the Olympics, and he came in and spoke to the students.
Wow, that's amazing. We have to take a short break. You're watching The Honorees. We're going to take a quick break. Stay with us.
Learn more about Miami-Dade College's clubs and organizations.
Hi everyone, welcome to Meet the Clubs. My name is Jessica Ruiz.
And Chavkubi is a cultural organization.
Student Government Association is an organization which promotes community service.
We're doing Camilla's House and beach cleanups.
Being part of SGA at the Hialeah campus, when the students come to our campus, most of them have come from another country.
Hello everyone, you are watching Meet the Clubs, and today we have the Face Club here.
I didn't have any friends, so when I met the Face Club, I had new friends.
Welcome to Meet the Clubs.
Meet the Clubs on MDC-TV.
Welcome back to The Honorees. I'm your host, Jez Katambe. Our guest today is Professor Billy Oliver. Now, Professor Oliver, on our previous segment, we were talking about your experience of winning the 2013 Endowed Teaching Chair Award and your teaching style. I'd love to know more about your interaction with the students and their achievements.
Yeah, I would say 80% of my students, I try to get to know them personally, and 80% of them I can tell you something about their personal life, not just about their academics. And I think that part is really important to get to know the student and know them as human beings and not just as a student in your classroom.
So I understand that we have students from MDC that have been placed with MTV, Univision, and Channel 7. Can you tell us a little bit about how our students got there and what you've done to help them with such achievements?
Yeah, we're very fortunate here that a lot of our graduates have gone on to do some pretty amazing things and have internships and jobs at some of the most prestigious video production places here in South Florida and around the country. As a matter of fact, yes, we have students at MTV, Nickelodeon, Univision, Telemundo, Channel 7, 10, 6, Channel 4, 33, and several of the production houses. Just this morning, a student came to me very excited because I had written a recommendation letter for her for ESPN, and the guy from ESPN called her and told her he wanted a phone interview, and she was all excited about that because, you know, if you get the phone interview, you're well on your way.
Oh, that is fantastic.
Yeah. And a lot of our students are here at MDC, I'm happy to say, working in the audio-visual department. The producer for this show, as a matter of fact, James Pierre, is one of our graduates.
Oh, yes, absolutely. He's wonderful. Now, since we're talking about all of our students' achievements, scholarships are always a big question for students. And I hear that you've helped some of our students win some very prestigious scholarships, like the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. What's the importance of guiding your students in these projects and these achievements?
Well, we have great students, but everybody needs a little kick in the pants now again. And the student will look at one of these scholarships and say, oh, I just can't. I can't do that. I don't have the grades. I don't have this. I don't have that. But it's not true. You should always try for the scholarships. We have had, every year, we've had somebody win one of the scholarships from the local Suncoast chapter of the National Academy of Television Arts and Science, the people that do the Academy Awards. Again, I don't want to keep talking about James Pierre, but James Pierre is a former recipient of that scholarship as well. We've been really fortunate to have students win those type scholarships and others.
Well, it really gives our students something to strive for and something to want to achieve. So in that regard, you mentioned you like to be able to give our students kind of a kick in the pants. How do you really take them under your wing and show them the ropes and how they can achieve?
Yeah, I'll go to them and I'll physically, you know, say, hey, this scholarship's up. A couple of weeks ago, you told me you're having some financial issues. Here's the perfect example of a scholarship. Start filling out this form. Come to my office when you get it filled out. Let me take a look at it before you send it in. I'll be happy to do the recommendation letter for you, and so forth and so on, and kind of guide them through the process and encourage them to make that initial step. Once you get them to make the initial step, then they're on fire and they want to go forth and do it.
Oh, that's fantastic. It really is. That idea of going above and beyond is something that I know really helps to define the Endowed Teaching Chair Award. So how would you say that you go above and beyond for our students? What is it that you do that makes you so different?
Well, as we mentioned before, I try to make the classroom assignments as close to real world as I can and try to give them that same pressure that one might have if you were doing a TV show where hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of commercials, for example, are hanging in the balance. Oh, sure. I have mentioned already that I try to bring in speakers from the industry. I share with them stories. I worked for about 10 years in 3 different television stations before I started teaching. I share that experience with them. We have a chapter of the National Broadcast Society that students can join and be a member of, and things like that.
That's great. I would love to hear a little bit about your career managing TV and radio. We're going to take a short break right now. You're watching The Honorees. Don't go anywhere. We're going to take another break. When we come back, Professor Oliver is going to tell us a little bit more about his first TV job and his career in television.
Hi everybody, welcome to the stage.
The first talent show that I did, I sang a song
by a group 702.
Gospel music has a rich history amongst African Americans.
I found out I had scoliosis and it was like an 80-degree angle.
You are a cancer survivor, stage 4.
Yes.
6-car accident.
Everything that I say or sing is what happened to me.
The Stage on MDC-TV.
Welcome back to the Honorees. I'm your host, Jez Katambe, and we're talking with Professor Billy Oliver. Now, before we took our break, I wanted to ask you if you could tell me a little bit about how managing a career in television has been really important to you.
I started out wanting to do something with TV back in the 60s when the Brady Bunch premiered. And I wanted to be a Brady. I didn't know what to do to get to be a Brady, but I knew the father had gone to school and I wanted to go to college like, Michael Brady had done. I realized some years later that the real magic wasn't in the Brady family, but was in the television itself, in the TV program, and I just fell in love with TV from that point.
Now, I remember when I read your story, you mentioned that during college, your original career was in pursuing textile management. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, I grew up in a little town in Alabama where Russell Mills was headquartered, and there was also Avondale Mills there. And most of the people in this little town worked for one of those two factories. And they offered a scholarship, and the scholarship was to study textile management. So you'd go to college, and then you'd come back there and live and be a manager at one of the plants. And I applied for the scholarship and was selected for the scholarship. So I went to Auburn initially to study textile management. So
tell me a little bit about how you got your first TV job in Auburn.
Yeah, I had worked in the summers in high school at a camp as a cook. So I knew how to cook. And when I moved to Auburn to study textile management, my neighbors, they didn't have their electricity turned on yet. So I made pancakes for my roommates and the neighbors. And after a couple of months, I wanted just some pocket change, a couple of dollars to have to spend. So I started asking around about a job. And one of those neighbors that I'd cooked pancakes for, he was working for an accountant there in Auburn, and they happened to do the books for this new TV station. And he said, they need people there. I can get you a job there. And I hadn't really seriously thought about TV before that. And I said, yeah, sure, anything is fine. And that's how I got started. He got me a job working at the transmitter, babysitting the transmitter, turning the transmitter on and off and taking readings and that kind of thing.
So now how does your educational background and your original plan to work in textiles, how does that factor into your career choice?
Well, I think any class that you take is helpful at some point in time. I can tell you what kind of fabric you need for it. I'm just kidding. I did take enough classes in textile management to get a double minor in textile management, but my heart was not in it, and I loved the TV thing. So I actually left Auburn and I went to what we used to call trade schools, a technical school, and I got a degree in electronics. And my idea was to be an engineer. And some things happened in life, and I wound up I moved away from Auburn, and I wound up having to move back to Auburn. And my friends started saying, you're back here in Auburn and you don't need that many more classes to graduate. You really should go back and get your degree. And I thought, they're right, but I don't want to do it in textile management. So I got a bachelor's degree in speech. And then I think more than anything else, just to prove that it wasn't an accident, that I actually could do college level work, I decided to get a bachelor's in communication. And I met a wonderful teacher there who took me under his wing and really helped me out. And that's when I started to think about teaching as a career. I wanted to be like this mentor of mine.
So you went from textile management to TV production, and now you're a full-time faculty member here at MDC, and you have been for quite some time. What qualities do you think are most important in a professor that you think that our other professors should espouse, should really strive for?
Well, what I hear my students saying whenever they're asked about me, patience comes up a lot.
Yes.
You have to have patience, you know, to teach a student how to, they look at our video switcher, which has about 100 or so buttons on it, and they look at it and they're totally intimidated, and you have to have a little bit of patience with them and go, no, 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 let's break it down. It's really not that complicated. Back in my television career, I used to be the one that they was asked to train the new people coming into the station. And one day I asked my boss, why do you always get me, why am I always the one to teach them? And he said, well, you're just so patient with them. So I guess that's a virtue. And I read a study a few years ago that said only about 5% of the people in the world really enjoy their job. And I think that's something that I have to say is helping me be successful. I feel like I'm one of the 5% that really enjoys their job. And the students, I think, know that I really enjoy it. And that comes across in my teaching. Sometimes when we're doing something in the studio and I'm having fun and they're having fun, I'll stop and say, you realize I'm getting paid for this?
That's probably the best answer anyone's ever given me. It means so much to our students to have your kind of contagious energy and your unending patience in teaching them. No matter how hard they struggle, no matter where they've come from, you always encourage them. And I know that that means so much to our students. Professor Oliver, thank you so much for joining us today on The Honorees. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you for watching. This is The Honorees, and I'm Jez Katambe. I'll see you next time.